The Lives of the Saints by Father Alban Butler, January 8th, St. Thorfinn of Hamar. In 1285, a Norwegian bishop named Thorfinn died in the Cistercian monastery of Ter Doest, near Bruges. As he had never attracted attention, he soon fell into oblivion, but 50 years later, when some masonry work was being carried out, his tomb was opened, and a very faint odor was emitted from it. The abbot began to investigate and found among his monks one named Walerius of Muda, who still remembered the bishop's stay in the monastery and the impression of goodness and firmness he had made on the monks. Walerius himself had written a poem about the holy bishop and had placed it in his coffin. Despite the time that had passed, the poem was still intact. The abbot saw this as a sign from heaven that the memory of the holy bishop should be perpetuated and instructed Walerius to write down his memories. Nevertheless, we know very little of the life of St. Thorfinn. He was born in Trondheim, and it is probable that he was a canon of the Cathedral of Nidaros, since there was a Thorfinn among the witnesses to the Treaty of Tønsberg in 1277. This treaty, signed by King Magnus VI and the Archbishop of Nidaros, confirmed some privileges of the clergy, guaranteed freedom in episcopal elections, and regulated other similar points. A few years later, King Eriko repudiated the treaty, and a bitter dispute broke out between church and state. The king banished Archbishop John and his two main supporters, Bishop Andrew of Oslo and Bishop Thorfinn of Hamar. After many vicissitudes, including shipwreck, St. Thorfinn arrived at the Abbey of Ter Doest in Flanders, connected to the Norwegian church. It is not impossible that St. Thorfinn had already been in the abbey before, and there is reason to suppose that he himself had been a Cistercian monk in the Abbey of Tautra, near Nidaros. The bishop returned ill to Ter Doest after a visit to Rome. Although he was still young, he understood that he was nearing the end of his days, and made his will. He distributed his wealth, which was not great, among his mother, his brothers, some monasteries and churches, and certain charitable works. He died soon after, on January 8, 1285. When his body was rediscovered, St. Thorfinn worked many miracles and began to be venerated by the Cistercian monks and around Bruges. The few Catholics in Norway have revived his memory in our days, and the episcopal city of Hamar celebrates an annual feast in his honor. The foundation of the tradition of Thorfinn's sanctity is the poem of Walerius of Muda, who tells us that the kindly appearance of this good, patient, and generous man concealed an iron will ready to fight against all forms of evil.